YouTube video. I've just decided to stop doing videos and to stop vlogging and all of it. April Fool's Day. I am publishing this video, or I published this video on April 1st, 2024, which is traditionally considered April Fool's Day, right? And on that day, people play pranks and silly jokes and tricks on each other, like the one I used to start this video. But there's more to this holiday's concept than playing pranks and making someone feel foolish. First, of course, there's the history of the day, but more importantly, the holiday offers an opportunity to consider all the different ways you can appear foolish all year long, but how to avoid that plight. So first, just a little history of April Fool's Day if you don't know it. April Fool's Day is also known as All Fool's Day. It's celebrated on the first day of April with pranks and hoaxes and practical jokes. While historians have debated the origins of the holiday, there are some theories that explain the history or the origins of the holiday. So some say April Fool's Day dates back to the 16th century, when France switched from the Julian calendar to the Gregorian calendar. And at that time, New Year's Day was moved from the end of March to January 1st. And the people who didn't want to acknowledge that, the new calendar system, and continued to celebrate the new year in late March were ridiculed. And they became the butt of jokes and pranks, and they were seen as fools. There's another theory which attributes the origins of April Fool's Day to the ancient Roman and Celtic spring festivals. So the Roman festival of Hilaria was celebrated at the end of March, and it involved dressing in disguises and mocking people. The Celts also celebrated Puck's Day on April 1st by playing practical jokes on each other. Now in Scotland, April Fool's Day focuses on hunting the gawk. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. And people are sent on foolish errands and tricked into looking for a non-existent bird called the gawk. In France and Italy, it's called, I don't speak French, so Poisson d'Avril and Pesque d'April. Sorry, bad pronunciation, I know it. April fish, the translation from French. And basically they would attach a paper fish to the back of an unsuspecting person as a prank. So over time, April Fool's Day became an internationally recognized day of fun and lighthearted trickery, at least fun for those who weren't made a fool of, right? Now, 2 years ago, the universe or God or source played a big trick on my husband and me on April Fool's Day. He had a stroke, which wasn't funny at all. And he went to the hospital looking like he was going to be left with a whole lot of physical deficits. But the doctors did their magic, and he returned to normal. And I could kind of hear the universe or source chuckling and saying, April Fool's Day, But the fact that my husband and I thought we would be impacted by his stroke, for the rest of our lives, wasn't, it was a pretty effective prank, really. My husband was given another lease on life, but I also was offered the opportunity to look really closely at how I was living my life and how I wanted to do that going forward. And I've talked about this before, but to me, not using those opportunities wisely would make us fools. So falling for a prank isn't the only way to look foolish, because, after all, being a fool means you're a person who acts unwisely or imprudently. You're a silly person, not necessarily somebody who falls for a silly April Fool's Day joke. Certain behaviors and attitudes can actually make you look foolish. And acting like a fool undermines your credibility and your reputation. It's hard to respect someone who's foolish, and doing foolish things lowers your self-respect and your self-esteem. But it's possible to avoid making yourself a fool. And if you do that, you're going to maintain your standing in the eyes of others and in the eyes of yourself. So I want to go through 10 foolish things to avoid during the year, not just on April 1st, okay? So the first one is jumping to conclusions. Jumping to conclusions without obtaining all the facts provides a surefire way to look foolish, because you're assuming things or interpreting situations without evidence, and that leads to misunderstandings and uninformed decisions and careless mistakes. Any one of those things can make you a fool in other people's estimation. You may even come to the same conclusion yourself, that you are a fool. So number 2 is refusing to admit you're wrong. The need to be right doesn't make you happy. It doesn't make you wise. Stubbornly sticking to your guns, despite any contradictory evidence, is a hallmark of foolish behavior. On the other hand, the ability to admit when you're wrong and learn from your mistakes shows maturity and humility and even wisdom, right? And a fool is not someone who's wise. So we want to be wise. Number 3 is talking more than you listen. You're going to be judged as self-absorbed and disrespectful if you dominate conversations and never listen to anyone. Being a good listener demonstrates that you're attentive and you're present and you're respectful and you're interested in what other people have to say. Plus, when you don't listen, you miss essential or relevant information. And without that, you could look like a fool. Additionally, you could foolishly lose the chance to get to know someone interesting or even important, or hear about an opportunity, right? Number 4 is being overly defensive. Reacting defensively to criticism or feedback makes you appear insecure and closed to alternative viewpoints, and it makes you seem unwilling to take responsibility for yourself, your words, your actions, right? So it's really important to be open to constructive criticism and view it as an opportunity for personal growth. The only way to change yourself or your circumstances is to take responsibility for both. So only only a fool focuses on, let me rephrase it. Only a fool refuses to receive feedback graciously, right? So if you don't want to be a fool, receive the feedback, okay, and use it. Number 5 is making excuses. Constantly making excuses for your behavior or shortcomings erodes your credibility, your reliability, your trustworthiness, and those who own up to their mistakes or flaws earn respect. So excuses actually provide a way to shirk your responsibility, and most people don't appreciate others who place blame outside themselves, who are always pointing the finger at someone else, that it's their fault. So holding yourself accountable for your behavior and your actions demonstrates integrity and maturity. Plus, growth requires taking responsibility for yourself. I talk about this all the time. But fools don't grow and change, and they continue making excuses for themselves and eventually look pretty silly as a result. Okay, number 6 is being impulsive. Impulsive. Acting thoughtlessly and quickly, without all the information or whatever, leads to foolish and sometimes costly mistakes. So taking action without thinking first can place you in embarrassing situations. So if you take the time to consider the consequences of your actions, you probably won't end up looking or feeling foolish. Instead, you're going to appear wise and thoughtful and prudent. All right, number 7 is blaming others for your mistakes. This goes along with not taking responsibility. When you place blame on others instead of taking responsibility for your mistakes, it's a classic fool's behavior. Most people realize very quickly that, that you are the one at fault, not whoever you're blaming, and you're just trying to find a way out of owning up to that fact. So you end up looking pretty foolish as a result. Now, on the other hand, owning up to your mistakes and demonstrating, that demonstrates maturity and integrity and honesty and wisdom, and those are not the hallmarks of a fool. Okay, number 8 is focusing on material possessions. So focusing on material possessions over more important things like personal growth and relationships or health makes you seem shallow, makes you seem superficial and foolish. Wise people know that true wealth lies in experiences and health and contribution and relationships. Those who focus on material possessions usually have a lot of regrets at the ends of their lives. They feel foolish for not putting their attention on things like doing what they love, spending time with friends, giving of themselves, staying in touch with people, all of that. Okay, number 9 is spreading rumors and gossip. Spreading gossip and rumors damages your reputation and credibility, especially if your words are untrue. If you speak behind people's backs, share things told to you in confidence, or share or dispense information that's not backed up in truth, you're going to find people fairly hesitant to trust you. And when rumors and gossip are traced back to you, back to their source, you're going to look like a fool for sure. Okay, number 10 is believing you know everything. No one likes a know-it-all, especially when it turns out they know very little, which is usually the case. Usually know very little, if anything. Believing you know everything makes you arrogant, and only fools refuse to consider new information or perspectives. So instead, remain open to learning and growing. Always admit when you don't know something and seek the information, right? Then you're going to be perceived as open-minded and informed rather than a fool. So overall, what I want you to take away from this video is to avoid being a fool all year long. It's not about just the April Fool's Day pranks and tricks. You may be able to avoid, or let me say, you may not be able to avoid being the brunt of an April Fool's Day prank, right? Because sometimes we just fall into them, right? So you may not be able to avoid being the brunt of an April Fool's Day prank, and that might make you a fool or make you look foolish. But all year long, you can avoid doing foolish things in everyday life. You can avoid the 10 behaviors, for instance, that I've covered in this video. And if you do that, you're going to prevent yourself from looking like a fool with your friends, your family, or your professional colleagues. So I'd love to know whether you do any of the foolish things listed in this post, or if you can think of some other foolish things that we do on a day-to-day basis, right? And how to avoid them. So leave me a comment down below. Let me know, okay? And happy April Fool's Day. If you don't know me, I'm Nina Amir, the Inspiration to Creation Coach. I'm all about helping you step into being a creator so you can take the actions that help you create what you really desire and what's really important to you. And I do that with a mix of personal and spiritual growth. I'm an intuitive transformational coach. I'm also a certified high performance coach. I run a membership program called the Inspired Creator Community, where I offer both personal and spiritual growth. As I'm shooting this video, the doors to that are closed right now. They will open again. You can always get on the waiting list. And I will put the link to the waiting list up above. And in the meantime, you're welcome to work with me one-on-one. Reach out for personal certified high performance coaching, or for intuitive transformational coaching. The link for all of that and the waiting list are in the same place. So the link is up above, and you can click on that to learn more. I do offer group transformational coaching, so you can drop into that group at any time. And I do intuitive readings, so that's on my website also at ninaamir.com. So check out all those things. There are lots of ways to work with me. And if that's not your jam, then just leave me a comment or go over to my Facebook group. Down below this video, there's a link to my Facebook group, the Transform Now Facebook group. And there I go live once a month. I do some coaching. You can hang out with me there. Okay, so there are lots of ways to be in my world and for me to support you. And I would be honored to do that. So until I talk to you next time, go out there and achieve more inspired results.